Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namasenda Baja Krodaya Hulu Hulu Tisa Tisa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrita Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum. Jesse. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namaskanda Bhajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hum Pe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namasenda Vajagrodaya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Holo Holo Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Holo Holo Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Holo Holo Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Holo Holo Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Holo Holo Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Holo Holo Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Holo Holo Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Holo Holo Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. Namastenda Bajagro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Hompe. pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. From there to the top of 8.
All sins are purified, all sufferings are removed. This is the root of all tantras, thoroughly adorned with complete fortune. When the sensory faculties of sentient beings deteriorate, faced with the shortening of life and untimely death, with a lack of prosperous abundance, and being in opposition to the gods, disliked by friends and family, betrayed by servants and others, living in complete disharmony, with financial loss and obstructions, plagued with despair, weariness, and harm, with fear and pains of hunger, cursed by astrological influences and constellations, limitless harmful acts by Maras, and all the sufferings resulting from that are cleansed by this perfect washing.
To the top of 8.
Upon hearing this perfect sutra, with a pure and uncontaminated mind, wearing clean clothes and engaging in the perfect sphere of the experience of the Buddhas, recite this profound sutra. By the glorious power of this sutra, all beings and their endless forms of suffering are all pacified, and their lifespan and merit are increased. All their sins are fully liberated.
Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namaskanda Vajrakrodaya Hulu Hulu Tisha Tisha Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Om pe. Namasenda Bajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Humpe. Namasenda Bajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Humpe. Namasenda Bajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Humpe. Namasenda Bajakro Daya Hulu Hulu Tishta Tishta Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Humpe.
All mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Page 6. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness in the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness in the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness in the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Page 19. Namo Guru, homage to the Guru.
In the vast sky of the glorious Dharma Dhatu, you pervade all phenomena without center or periphery. Remembering again and again the Dharmakaya, great Vajradhara, I fervently supplicate with one pointed mind, Guru, please bless me that I may be like you. In the east over the land of Zamor, where clouds gather, billowing mists of blessings arise. Remembering again and again Dili Prajnabhadra, I fervently supplicate with one pointed mind, Guru, please bless me that I may be like you. In the north over Pushpahari, where red lightning flashes, you underwent the trials for Dharma's sake. Remembering again and again learning great Pandita Naro, I fervently supplicate with one pointed mind, Guru, please bless me that I may be like you. In the south at the valley of the birches, the turquoise dragon thunders. You perfectly translated the hearing lineage into Tibetan. Remembering again and again Marpa Lotsawa, I fervently supplicate with one pointed mind, Guru, please bless me that I may be like you. In the highlands of the Lapchi snow range, a gentle rain is falling, where the instructions of the hearing lineage flow together into a lake. Remembering again and again glorious Shiva Dorje, I fervently supplicate with one pointed mind, Guru, please bless me that I may be like you. In the east, the earth on the Daklagampo hills is soaked with a continuous stream of waters of clear light. Remembering again and again the Lord, King of physicians, I fervently supplicate with one pointed mind, Guru, please bless me that I may be like you. In the land of glorious Pamodru shoot sprouts, where you open the treasure of the profound secret mantra, remembering again and again the Lord, self-arisen Buddha, I fervently supplicate with one pointed mind, Guru, please bless me that I may be like you. In the north, in the Dragoon region, the 6 grains ripen. These 6 grains pervade all 6 realms of beings. Remembering again and again the kind lords of Dharma, uncle and nephew, I fervently supplicate with one pointed mind, Guru, please bless me that I may be like you. On the crown of my head, on a sun and moon seat, sits my kind root Guru, inseparable from glorious Vajradhara. Remembering you again and again, I fervently supplicate with one pointed mind, Guru, please bless me that I may be like you.
Take a few deep, deliberate breaths, slowly inhaling, slowly exhaling. As you inhale, feel the life and the energy all coming into your body, filling every cell in your body. And feel the delight and the ease that enters the body with breath. Next, you exhale. As you exhale, again feel the lightness of release. And then you inhale again, and you exhale again. And when you're ready, this time when you inhale, imagine absorbing, inhaling all the blessings of all the awakened ones in all directions, entering through your nostrils, so that the breath is not just breath, but it's also carrying all the blessings and the protection of all the awakened ones. Their wisdom, their compassion, their example, their toughness of heart and mind, all of that blessings. In other words, we absorb in their qualities with breath. And as we exhale, think of all the stains and the pollution, the drippa and the dikpa, all leaving your body in the form of dark breath coming out of your nostrils, and also dark, smoky liquids being expelled from your body, coming out through all your pores and all the openings, so that you become a clear crystal body, luminous, shining, light, at ease. Hear the quiet, hear the silence, hear the sounds that come and go in this silence, in this quiet, and hear both of them. Keep doing this until you feel that you are indeed this body of light, luminous, radiating light in all directions as well. Then when you're ready, as Venerable George suggested to us, this time breathe in all the situations in towns, big and small, across the United States, where there are people hungering for Dharma, looking for Dharma, but do not have access to actual communities, to teachers, to circumstances, to centers that makes Dharma possible. And think of all those situations. Think of their longing. Think of their loss. And breathe in all of that, taking on this particular suffering that they have. We can take this on because fundamentally we are this body of light. But we can also take them on because we do have a Dharma center. We have teachings available to us. We live in a place where the Dharma is not being persecuted. where the Dharma has not been made illegal. And neither has Dharma been so wrapped up with our histories, our politics, our economics, so that it makes it hard to practice the pure Dharma. So we rejoice in the pure Dharma that we have access to. And we share that with all those who don't have this kind of access. We share the freshness of the Dharma that is not yet too mingled with our political systems, our social structures, in ways that they are deeply entrenched in Asia. So we rejoice in the freshness of the Dharma. And this rejoicing we share with everyone. So rely on your in-breath and out-breath, specifically taking on the suffering and the loss of direction and the loss of hope of those who have no access to Dharma, even if they want to. And specifically no access to Dharma communities. We think of them, we breathe in and absorb all their sufferings. And we breathe out and share with them what we do have. In that way, we help plant seeds of Dharma growing in their communities, far away, or down the road, or in another continent. So we had a meeting, as I'm sure all of you know, before the start of Kagyu Sangha, the team manifesting our future, which is a loose group, loose but committed group of folks, many of them in this room, met and we decided that we have seen enough commitment and momentum building over the last few weeks, and we believe that we have enough momentum to recommend to the board of Urban Dharma to consider signing the next cycle of the lease. And this is, because of what we have seen. And of course, to thank everyone, whether you're directly part of the team or working in other ways in the last few weeks, and for some of you, the last 6 years. Without you, whether you're actively doing it now or not, but without the past, there's no present. So I think I can speak on behalf of everyone who has benefited from Urban Dharma's existence to say that we are all very thankful for what you all have done and you all are doing, and I hope will continue to do. And I also want to say, or to inspire, or to challenge all of you that are listening now, that we can still do more. Yes, that you are here means that you're on the front lines and you are doing more. But it also means that you are the direct recipient of what you are doing here. So I hope I don't sound ungrateful when I say that you are here. You also need to do more because you are directly benefiting from this. So I want to share with you what I have seen in terms of the recent people signing up to be ongoing sustaining members. I have seen addresses from other continents. Some of them are watching this broadcast, and some of them are not. So those who are not, obviously, they are not so directly benefiting from the immediate programs that we do here. But they know that by helping Urban Dharma, they make it possible for them to see more of me. In some ways, it's because of how little access they have to Dharma where they are, in far-flung places. So they appreciate that you guys are keeping this place going. But in some ways, I think on a deeper level, maybe they even felt, if it goes away, we could get more of Han. They could think like that, really, right? But they're not thinking that. They recognize, the importance of what we're doing here, not in just a direct way of how much I'm giving and how much I'm getting. They recognize that. I mean, if they were really calculating, doing a business proposal, they're like, let it sink, then we will get more of Han. It doesn't have to be there anymore. That's not how they're thinking. Thank goodness. That's not how they're thinking. Then even that, then I'm wasting my time, even if I'm going to wherever I go. Then there is particularly another group, which, again, recently I've been watching. So I will name names. there is a small group of individuals 2 hours away from here at Davidson, North Carolina. There are 5 people there that meet on a weekly basis. They are people that I made connections with when I taught there, friends. And one of them is, of course, on the board here, Trent. And they have another new person. For the longest time, there were maybe 4 of them. And then another new person that joined maybe a couple of months back. And I've met this person twice, several years ago. In between here and Davidson, that time, this person and his wife was transitioning between here and Davidson. We sort of played, what do you call that?
Ships that pass in the night.
Yeah, exactly. And when I was living up there, they were living down here. And then when they moved down there, I moved back here. So our paths didn't exactly cross a lot. But when I was down there, they were able to come to a couple of our meetings. And I heard that he had recently joined that group. And I just looked at, not looking at for anything specific, but looking at the donors recently, and I recognized that all 5 of them are sustaining members, including the new person. And here's the thing, not once have they asked me, could you come to Davidson to do something with us? I gave them a Chenrezig practice. And since 2013, I have not been living there. They have continued their Chenrezig practice and growing their own understanding of the practice. Not once have they asked, could you come to Davidson to do something with us? Could you do something online with us? But they took to heart what the Dharma means. And they understand the importance of supporting Dharma. Even supporting with totally no strings attached and no demands. So this is to say, a lot of people recognize, what we're doing here is good, and it's good, whether they're directly receiving the good or not. It's good. It's good for everyone. I have been writing something that I have a particular audience that I'm sending to, but I want to share with you what I have written. It's still not very polished yet, but like I said, like the recent crisis, whatever you want to call it, has really helped us to kind of bring into focus what we have to do and do better and do more consistently and do more effectively. I think last week there was some talk during our meeting that I think we at first phrased it as we need to have more communications. But I think we don't need more communications. We need more effective communications. Sometimes it's because there's too much communications. You can't keep track of who communicated or who did not communicate, who is in the communication loop and who is not in the communication loop. Right now, people can get me through the phone, through text message, through WhatsApp, through WeChat, through Facebook Messenger. 5. And I go to 5 places to talk to people. And I can't keep track where I said what to whom, So it's not lack of communication, my goodness. It's like bazillion more communication from 20 years ago. So we don't need more communication. We need more care and heart to put into communication. Somebody made a point, and I want to repeat this point. And I'm trying myself, succeeding mostly so far, but still, habit comes in, which is something as simple as when I write an email, I do say, hello, Linda, or dear Sheila, or hi, Tim, and not just launch into blah, 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 blah. It's small, but it programs the way we communicate. And then we think we don't have enough communication, right? Then we shoot off more emails like that, or text message or WhatsApp, where there's no care, there's no heart. And when there is no heart, there is no communication, period. All those are just sounds. There is no heart in it, there's no communication. At the root of communication is heart. It's caring. So little things do matter, because it's an accumulation of little things that we end up with big things. You know, on this physical, scientific level, and from the Buddhist, analysis of matter and mind, is all about the smallest aggregation that becomes big things. So heart is important. Caring about how we communicate is more important than having more communication. So I want to encourage all of us to take that care, to say hello. Anyway, so these are things that have come up, in the last few months of thinking about our future. It's so good. I really, there's one part of me, of course I care where we continue, but there's another part of me that said that, if everything shuts down tomorrow, I learned so much. And that we can take with us. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. You could be dead tomorrow. And if having urban Dharma continue is how you measure whether you have been successful or not, then you failed. And that would be terrible. But that's not, that's not what it's about. So one of the things that have come up for me, and I'm starting to articulate this in this communication that I have a particular audience that I want to send it to. It's about how we are good for the community. We talk about that, right? But it has been kind of amorphous, not exactly clear what we mean by that. We all have a sense that we're good for the community, but how, right? Well, we could say, well, at the very least, after coming to urban Dharma, I'm not such a jerk to my neighbors. Oh yes, good. You're good to your community, But that's not a selling point, I mean, it's good, right? Like your spouse thinks that maybe you're more tolerable now. Your pet thinks that you smell better now, or But that you can't quite make a case of why people should care whether we disappear or not, right? Then more concretely, we said, we collect food for mana, Good. I think we should continue. And some of us are very good at that. And I suspect the people who are good at that, in fact, as a fact, are not necessarily people who have a lot, but people who actually understand and have experienced what it means not to have food. I watch, I see, I know who puts things in there, and I appreciate that's going on. So we could point to that and say, we are doing that. But actually, that's also not a selling point. People could just drive further to go to Manna and give it. They don't have to give it to Urban Dharma, and then Urban Dharma get it to Manna, right? So more directly, what is it that we do that others should care about? Now, of course, especially in the town hall meetings, we heard some of these stories. And some of these stories became kind of the basis of getting me to think more about if we need to make a case. And so there is a situation that come up for me. I don't have great expectations or anything, but there's a situation that came up for me that prompted me. And the situation is basically someone who is not Buddhist, don't really care whether Buddhist or not, but curious, like, well, why should a non-Buddhist care whether you guys exist or not exist? Yeah? What good are you bringing to your community? Beyond, people becoming better people because they are learning Buddhist teachings. And people will come in here. Right? So this is what I've written so far. Bear with me. Like I said, there are still things to tweak. When Urban Dharma North Carolina, UDNC, was founded back in 2011, one of our core principles was that given the finite nature of resources, and especially given the reality of the limited resources that most non-mainstream religious or spiritual organizations face, i.e., we are not churches with endowments and generations of endowments and critical mass. And given that, UDNC should not compete with existing Buddhist or non-mainstream spiritual religious organizations in this area. That's a core principle there. Instead, UD is to focus on how we could meet needs that exist in our community that are not yet being met, and that we are capable of meeting those needs in meaningful and fruitful ways. To this end, UD's vision is focused not so much on how many new Buddhists are we creating, but rather on how can we as an organization, as a group of like-minded and like-hearted community members, better utilize Buddhist ideas, principles, techniques, and teachings to alleviate suffering in the myriad forms it turns up in our lives, in the lives of our community, and help create better lives in this area. We didn't know when we started exactly how we were going to do this, but in these past 6 years, we are slowly but surely beginning to see some clear directions. In particular, I want to highlight refuge recovery. Refuge recovery as a community of mutual aid and support for those struggling with substance and/or process addictions is in its 4th year of existence and is grounded in the core vision of the Buddhist approach to alleviating suffering. In the last year, it has grown from fewer than 150 meetings around the country to nearly 300 meetings worldwide. As both a complement and alternative to 12-step recovery, it is clearly resonating with 2 groups of people in particular. 1, those in recovery who were not getting their needs met in other recovery paths. And 2, Buddhist practitioners who were not getting their recovery needs met in traditional Buddhist communities. In Asheville, Refuge Recovery began in June 2015 with its first meeting at UD. The small group of 4 that started this local group were looking for a home base. And they approached Dr. Han Lai while I'm writing as if I'm talking about someone else. And they approached Dr. Han Lai, who quickly agreed to host it at UD, recognizing that refuge recovery fits perfectly into UD's organizational mission. Within months, RR Asheville had expanded to 2 meetings at Urban Dharma, with an average attendance of 20 individuals per meeting. Today, Refuge Recovery Asheville hosts 5 meetings per week in 4 locations throughout the city. Refuge Recovery meetings at UD continue to not only be the best attended meetings weekly, with as many as 40 to 50 participants at the UD Friday meetings, but also often the first contact point for many who regularly attend Refuge Recovery meetings at other locations in town. Refuge Recovery Asheville estimates that nearly 100 people attend one or more of these weekly meetings. The importance that Urban Dharma's central location has played in the ability of Refuge Recovery to reach out to those who benefit from its unique approach to addiction recovery cannot be overstated. Refuge Recovery Asheville demographics are broad, but in particular, it sees a remarkable number of younger people, ages 15 to 25. The central location of UD in downtown Asheville dramatically increases visibility and accessibility to this population. Furthermore, we know that Asheville is a place that attracts a disproportionate number of younger people who are drawn to non-mainstream alternative worldviews and spiritual inspiration. And when members of this particular demographic happen to also have addiction issues, mainstream recovery programs and outreach often aren't so effective at helping provide a passage to recovery. This illuminates the remarkable number of younger participants at Refuge Recovery Asheville meetings. Refuge Recovery Asheville, as one of the stakeholders at UD, is but one example of how UD, with its mission, vision, and location, is unique in its focus, not centered necessarily on growing the Buddhist community in Western North Carolina, which we are of course not opposed to, but rather on how Buddhist-based approach might help alleviate suffering and create better lives in this corner of our world. Going forward, UD would like to develop and grow a more robust recovery ministry with Refuge Recovery anchoring this focus. This section, Daniel helped me craft this. He came up with the basic text, and then I, kind of expanded here and there. Aside from the issue of recovery, UD has also in the last couple of years been engaging 2 other issues. This became clear to me within this context. Right? How does UD bring a particular way of alleviating suffering here that otherwise would not be available, even given all the good work that people are doing, churches, synagogues, other agencies? What is it that we can bring? Right? Aside from the issue of recovery, UD has also in the last couple of years been engaging 2 other issues and slowly sowing and nurturing the seeds for ministries focused on 1, introducing and supporting meditation for the young. 2, providing support for aging and the facing of mortality. For the last 2 years, we have partnered with Jubilee Community Church, which is physically down the road from us, to offer monthly meditation for the young to Jubilee Sunday School members. Like Refuge Recovery, our meditation for the young is Buddhist-based, but the approach taken here is non-religious in nature. This program helps the young, from ages of 4 to 16, develop mindfulness, kindness, and awareness through simple, short meditation exercises that range from body awareness, calming breath, and visualizing happiness for self and others. Our efforts have been featured very recently in a local publication, give the link. And we are now seeking to expand on this program to eventually make this a weekly program. Our immediate next step is to expand our offering to a twice-a-month schedule by the end of this summer. Yes, Elise? That's news. Beyond this formal meditation program for the young, UD has offered numerous educational programs to schools and college groups who visit us throughout the academic year. In this way, we have been able to play our small but hopefully meaningful part in educating our fellow Americans on who their neighbors, colleagues, or perhaps in-laws may be. As for the focus on providing a forum for conversations around aging and mortality, this is an area that Dr. Lai himself has played a stronger role in providing an educated Buddhist voice into this particular cluster of issues. The Asheville area is unique in its ability to attract both young people as well as older retirees. There are many retirement communities in our area. For the last 6 years, UD has offered annual 6-weekend trainings in a Tibetan Buddhist practice of, quote, living fearlessly, dying joyfully, unquote. These courses have been well received and we will continue to offer them on a regular basis. However, Dr. Lai is also reaching out to community partners to collaborate on offering Buddhist-informed programs focused on facing mortality to the broader Western North Carolina community, but with a more universal appeal that does not involve any particular commitment to specific Buddhist practices. There is a growing need in American society for more context and forums for everyone to have frank, honest, heartfelt, and even vulnerable conversations about aging and dying. And we know that in this area, there is much that UD could do for our corner of this world with regards to this cluster of issues. In short, moving forward, UD will be intentionally growing beyond our currently more Buddhist-focused programs into a much broader and impactful focus that is Buddhist-based, but universal in appeal and relevance. This has always been the vision of UD from its beginning, but as with all things, it takes time and experience for stable and sustainable growth. The next section is the transitioning into the ask. I won't bore you with that. I think these 3 areas is where we need to develop. And for folks yourselves to step up, you know enough Dharma to do these 3 and do these 3 really well. Do not underestimate. You know enough Dharma. It's a disposition that is needed. Information is easily available. It's a disposition. It's an attitude. It's a state of mind. I know all of you. You have that. So to do these 3 things, you don't need to be experts in the Dharma. You just need to be human with hearts. And we can do this. And of course, we will continue to provide for those who explicitly want to learn Buddhism. Don't mishear what I'm saying. That will continue, sure. But that is so that we can practice both ultimate bodhicitta and conventional bodhicitta. Where and how we serve others is action bodhicitta of the conventional bodhicitta. We come here to deepen our aspiration bodhicitta of conventional bodhicitta. our more quote-unquote involved and advanced meditation is about ultimate bodhicitta. But ultimate bodhicitta is not reachable without conventional bodhicitta. And this is what conventional bodhicitta means, is to meet people where they are. And we can do that. I've also thought about, I frequently say that when UD started, I really see more and more clearly how much I was inspired and informed by the experience of Buddhism in Malaysia. Buddhism in Malaysia is a unique situation, not in Tibetan communities, not in Thai communities, not in China, not in Taiwan. It's its own particular unique situation. And in fact, Pramod was there. His Holiness talked about it at the Monlam in Arizona. He specifically said, Buddhism in Malaysia is different. And that is the model, he said that. And what is he talking about? Until recently, and that I think might be changing things a little bit, but not too much. Until recently, there was very few, and this is like, there was very few expert Buddhist superstars in Malaysian Buddhism. There's very little focus on expert superstars. And the way that now Buddhist teachers have to promote themselves to make themselves superstars, in order to sustain what they're doing. I'm not criticizing that, but it's a tremendous pressure to market yourself. Everybody needs to have a website. I have thought about it. Each time I just say, ooh, yuck. But I have to eat my words at some point, I'm sure. You can say, haha, yuck, look. But there's tremendous pressure to do that, But that's not what I'm talking about. When I was growing up as a teenager, Malaysian Buddhism had a peculiar situation where, and here are the circumstances. First of all, we are a minority community. Malaysia is predominantly Muslim, but with a strong non-Muslim presence. About 25% of the population is nominally Buddhist. And I grew up at a time where being nominally Buddhist suddenly started to shift when those who were nominally Buddhist began to take more seriously the question of what it means to be Buddhist. So in a way, we were converts. You know how we, the Chinese community, accidentally, I used to tell this story when I was in academia, we accidentally became Buddhist in Malaysia. Can you guess how the Chinese community accidentally became Buddhist? For good or for bad, we have to thank the British. Can you guess how?
Because you didn't want to be Christian.
Okay. Not so much the pressure of being Christian, not even that. The British were pretty good at not forcing religion down on people.
Did they come and say, shouldn't you as a Buddhist be doing this, this, and this?
Close. Something even more kind of, what's the word, administrative. Some hints there. Some administrative requirement. Turn a whole bunch of us Buddhist.
They kind of fashioned the idea of Buddhist temples?
No, not Buddhist temples.
Census type.
Census type. And especially for an empire, having an inventory of how many elephants and tigers and Buddhists that the queen owns is important. So they created the category of what religion are you? Well, the majority Malays say, well, we're Muslims. Okay, well, that's easy enough. then when they looked at the Chinese, they said, what religion are you? The Chinese would just have a blank stare at them. What do you mean? Like, we have to choose? Because culturally in China, unless you become a Buddhist monk or a Taoist priest, nobody would ever ask you, like, what is your religious belief? It's like, what is there to believe? Anything and everything, you know, whatever is needed. It's like, I have a toothache, I go to the dentist. You know, I have a haunting, I go to the Taoist priest. I have a death, I go to the Buddhist monk. But suddenly the British said, no, that's not how it works. You have to choose. So the Chinese basically said, well, what are our choices? Right? And so the British just kind of look at that and say, well, there is like, you know, like 9 different types of Christian on this list, right? It's not just Christianity, right? It's like, you know, Anglicans and Papists, I mean, Catholics and, you know, Orthodox and, you know, Lutherans and Methodists and all of that. And so you keep going down the list, you know, I just imagine like my grandfather looking at that and going, no. And then you come to Hindu, well, definitely not. You come to Muslim, well, definitely not. What's left is Buddhist. Now you see, this is also about like the impact of academia. At that point in the, you know, late 18th, early 19th century, Confucianism and Taoism weren't considered religions. So I don't think those options were there. They were considered philosophies. Yeah. So a whole bunch of Chinese just like accidentally ended up being Buddhist. So 2 generations later, my generation, were like, oh, we're Buddhist. Well, what does that mean? And so then starting with my generation, and even my dad's generation, I think, there is a lot of educated Chinese Malaysians starting to think more deeply. What does it mean that we are Buddhist? So then we started Buddhist Sunday schools because those Christians have that. What do we do on Sundays? Well, let's go to Sunday school. Then we'll have Sunday service. Well, why not? You know. So all those forms were created. And this is also particular to the Chinese scenario. Very few Chinese parents like the idea of their kids becoming monks or nuns. Because in Chinese society, if someone became a monk, what that means is he has failed to make a name for him in the world. He can't make a living. So it's shameful. If someone became a nun, it meant no man wanted to marry her. It's shameful. So at all costs, family would avoid. So we did not have monastic leadership. We had very few monks and nuns. And those that we do have are not educated. Not very educated, maybe really pious, trained ritually, but it was left to the lay intellectual, the lay elites, the educated lay elites that started to learn Buddhism and take over leadership of Buddhist communities. What's really nice is we never created we are better than monastics. We always understood that the monastics are at the heart, but our situation and reality was such that we did not have them. So we couldn't look for them to organize us. Instead, the lay people organized themselves and then went to the monks and went to the nuns and say, we would like this. We would like religious education. And the monks is just like, I know how to do rituals. You guys start, you know, and I will give moral support. And so they started. Then other lay people said, you know, the Christians are visiting hospitals. And again, you know, the monk or nun is like, well, I only know how to chant when they're about to die. I don't know what to say to them. And so the lay people said, okay, we'll do it. And then the monks and the nuns started to go with them. Still, people, got a lot of confidence by the sight of monks and nuns. But the work, it was lay people. And these lay people, now to be fair, I said, there was a particular group that were students of this one very sharp and activist Sri Lankan monk that was English educated. And so he was very influential. So he was a superstar in that sense, but not to the degree that everyone is a superstar these days. And at that time, we didn't really go think in terms of like monastics being superstars. That phenomenon was just starting. When this monk died, he only, I think, had his whole career, he only made 3 monks, maybe even less, that lasted and remained monk. All his quote-unquote successors were lay people. But these were lay people who were professionals, teachers, lecturers, engineers, doctors, lawyers, that maintain active professional lives, strong families, and leadership at Buddhist centers. So now we have all these Buddhist community centers all over Malaysia, especially urban areas. They're all led by lay people. It is possible. It is possible to raise a family, run a business, and run Buddhist programs. I know that. Don't underestimate what we can do. In so many ways, Malaysia's situation is very similar to the West. Maybe not so tiny as the West in terms of population, maybe 1 or 2% Buddhists, I don't know. And Malaysia, admittedly, there's a broader culture that kind of gets it, that supports. But do remember this. Having that support also means the needs are even greater, right? And so they have to do even more. But in Malaysia, it's all lay leadership, like all of you. Very few people full-time, monk or not, like myself. We animate it, we kind of, but a lot of times it's initiatives coming from members, and then members making it work, going with it. And it's possible, So when Urban Dharma started, I lived 2 hours away. Maybe I was crazy, but whoever else who was involved, they were crazy enough to say, yes, let's do it. But I don't think it's just about crazy. There is something that we all recognize, that this is a community-based, by the community, for the community. And I think these 3 issues, maybe we will continue to tweak with that, but I think if we start to think about Urban Dharma as not just, what we do here on Wednesday nights and Sunday washings or whatever, but what we do on Wednesday night is important. Yeah, the Dharana washing and all that, because it helps us to help others. We have to grow strong roots. So I'm committed to doing that, But I also want you all to see this as this is not an end unto itself. Right? We engage a particular form, a particular set of conventions. For what purpose?
not to become experts in the form. Not to become experts in the form. Is it good to have a few experts of the form, of the conventions? Yes, so that this can continue to benefit others. But the real purpose of having this form even continue is so that when people engage this ritual form, this discipline, this practice, it alleviates their suffering, it changes their lives. That's the true measure of what we're doing. I dare say that if we look at the Tibetan Buddhist center situation, I think most of them are stuck in replicating forms and continuing forms, and then say, and measure success by, oh, look, we all can do this chanting really great, and that we are preserving the lineage. Sometimes that talk, becomes very dangerous, where the means become the end. Now, of course, us Americans sometimes are too extreme the other way, with just kind of disrespecting the means and just want to get to the ends, right? Of course, there's that. But especially, different Buddhist traditions in the West, I think, have at different points of their evolution. The Zen people are starting to move out of the preserve the lineage, and move in the direction of how do we alleviate suffering beyond that form that we ourselves are grounded in, we ourselves are practicing, and we ourselves are using to feed us and nourish us and put us in a good place. Well, put us in a good place to do what? To have more fulfilled American lives? Come on, that cannot be it. To put us in a better place, to actualize bodhicitta, to alleviate the suffering of others. And we have to do that. So it's both things, As we engage the form, as we learn the form, as we learn the conventions, only a few people need to become experts enough to give it to the next generation. But the rest of us should be more focused on now. It's sort of like, let me see if this example works, learning how to make certain types of food, The point is not so that you all become chefs, Only a few needs to become chef and teacher of chefs. The rest, this food has nourished you. Now you can go do good because you have been nourished by this food. I think if we start thinking this way, and if we start, letting urban Dharma go beyond, but not beyond the core vision, but beyond the form that we have been engaged in. We have to start seeing mountain mindfulness not as a random group that happens to meet here, but they are an important unit of what's here, and refuge recovery, an important unit. So, in the next month, maybe we will start thinking of ways, I want all of us to think of ways that we really, think of ways of having everyone feel that we're in this together, including the wellness. We're in this together. So structures have to be put in place. All the stakeholders, so to say, need some representation of some sort. Not sure yet, if we're ready to get people on the board, because that also can kind of suddenly, once the word board comes in, crazy power visions kind of come up. Not even people within it, but people outside start have these imaginations,
And, unfortunately or fortunately, I've only been involved in boards and things that are so not organized that if anything is going on, it's not conspiracies, but disorganization. But to everyone else who's not in there watching from the outside, it's like they are up to something. No, they're not up to something. They just don't know what to do. It's more the case, you know. But anyway, there has to be a more meaningful way to bring stakeholders together on a regular basis to think about why should someone care whether we are here or not here. And in fact, we should ask, why should I care? And let me make it very clear. I've already said this before. I'll say this again. If you just want to be fed spiritually, we can do this without this. Close shop. I will have more time to teach you. We can do that. Sheila has a nice basement. You can go meet at her basement. You know? All the time that we spend on thinking about this and that and meetings and all of that, all that can be freed up to be fed. This is don't hear this. Please don't hear this as a threat at all. I'm just stating simply, if that's what you, this group, primarily you want, that's easy, you know. So don't think of continuing urban Dharma as a way to keep me here. No, I'm here. I'm here because, you know, on a personal level, I like having you all around. I want to teach you all because I know you all want to learn. Also, there's a certain someone out on the farm. So I'm here. So if we continue urban Dharma, it cannot be about your access to me. In fact, you know, you could think in evil ways, you know, like those others that I suggested. If they were like really thinking in kind of, you know, ends justify means, they will say, oh, let it tank. Because what we really want from him, we can get better now. But I hope we don't just think like that. You know? Because then that question, you know, okay, now that you're well, and then well to do what? Right? Is that it? I don't think so. So bodhicitta. Bodhicitta. Many years ago in Malaysia, especially people involved in Tibetan Buddhism, they are really into power, generally speaking, like magic. So different Buddhist groups, you know, Tibetan Buddhist groups, when they get together or they meet each other, friends, you know, they will be like, so your Mahakala, how many arms? Someone is like, oh, 2 arms, 2? We just got a 4-arm empowerment. And somebody would be like, you know, there's the 8 arms, and then there's the, you know, I mean, it might sound silly, but it's important to them, you know. Just likewise, when Americans talk about what's important to us, other people are like, oh, that's kind of ridiculous, right? So one time, when somebody, you know, very earnestly asked, you know, in the teaching, I remember asking one of a visiting Lama, like, you know, so what's the most powerful practice in this lineage? And the Lama said, why? You know, and they said, well, I don't know. People ask me that, you know, when I say I'm practicing Kagyu. So Lama thought of it. And this is Drupal something. I think Pramad knows. And he said, okay, if that's the case, tell you what, the next time somebody asks you something like that, in your lineage, what's the most powerful practice you have? Tell them bodhicitta. So, there's nothing, they can't argue. The argument stops there. They're trying to start a fight with you. They're trying to show you, you know, one up you, you know. They can't. And it's also the truth that indeed, yes, the most powerful practice we have in our lineage is bodhicitta. And by the way, I think that's also the most powerful practice you have in your lineage. Because if your lineage doesn't have that, then it's finished. Less than bodhicitta, it won't work. More than bodhicitta doesn't exist. Right? Comments? Say something if you want to say something.
Well,
Yes.
I went to Refuge Recovery last Friday,
Uh-huh.
and it was really powerful
Mm-hmm.
to see how the practice impacts people's lives.
Yes.
You know, it was really interesting. And so if you're moved to go to a meeting, I'd suggest it because it's kind of like Buddhism in action,
Yes.
you know, on much more of a day-to-day, real-life situation where they're using it, you know, even daily meditation, you know, but I was really, anyway.
Absolutely. I saw
really,
that. Yeah.
Really,
Whenever I've been
moved.
invited to, I could see. You know? So now I'm planning with Daniel to strengthen my support of that program.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start with a half-day retreat coming up in August.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
you
it
mentioned
might be
that.
ongoing.
Mm.
Because I don't have, you know, direct addiction issues, I don't have the creds to be completely effective, but I can bring what I can to support what they are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and that is one good example, I feel, of how you don't need to be an expert in Buddhism to help alleviate suffering with Buddhist outlook. Just simple Four Noble Truths, Eight Noble Path. Find ways to translate that, whether it's for the recovery community, for young people, for people struggling with aging and dying. Those are the three areas, I think. You know, we know enough Dharma. Now we have to just figure out how to do it authentically, how to do it in a consistent, stable way. We can. 2 weeks ago, I read you a message that we got from Venerable George. Here is a longer, and Venerable George is in retreat, and so he didn't write so long and didn't craft it. Here is a letter that we got from Lama Karma over in Tennessee. So I'm going to read this to you. Both of this we'll be sending out to the broader. In the next few days, I'll release one, and then a few days later, a second one. Yeah. So let me read to you what Lama Karma wrote. Dear Asheville friends, sending you all my love and gratitude from the west side of the mountains. I wanted to share some of my thoughts and feelings about Urban Dharma, the community you have there, your leadership, and the great opportunity you might not be aware of. For more than 5 years, your doctor, and Lopan, has urged, coaxed, pleaded, ignored, tricked, and charmed you all into virtue. As a result of his efforts, meeting the purity of your intentions, you have created a community of true integrity, warmth, authenticity, and humor. I have always felt completely at home among you and look at your Sangha as an oasis in the midst of a world of refined and common confusion. Lots of refined confusion. Whether it is because your neck of the woods has been blessed with a spiritual smorgasbord that is too vast for its own good, or a mystical vibe too deep to be noticed, Urban Dharma stands out in the region as a community of authentic study and practice. This is actually something that is quite rare in America, to say nothing of the South. You are all very much pioneers, and you should feel gratitude and joy for what you have been able to build together. At this point of decision, I suggest that you appreciate the true character of what you have built, and on the basis of this recognition, it will be much easier to determine the future you will choose. UD is many things and can become many things, but I would like to highlight two strengths in particular. The first is the virtue of the community, and the second is the authenticity of its lineage. I think you all understand and appreciate the qualities of your community, the support it offers to your practice and your life, and the wholesome goodness it radiates into the wider community around you. This is the fruit of your sincerity, and it is truly precious. I think preserving and nurturing the community is something that we are all committed to. Whatever UD is to become, please continue to hold one another as brothers and sisters, and continue to support one another in creating a supportive context for authentic practice. The second aspect of lineage is equally important and inspiring to appreciate. You have a complete path available to you from start to finish. Dr. Han is tireless in creating a multitude of doorways for people to enter this path, doorways that are always reinventing and renewing themselves to be accessible by almost anyone who might be seeking truth, thrills, or just shelter from the storm. He's also fully committed to providing a diversity of paths for all of your fantastic and fanatic dispositions, from the mainline bread and butter of the gradual path to the outrageous and elegant instructions that ripen and liberate anyone with enough faith and diligence to take them to heart. As he has rolled out the carpet past your wiggling toes on many occasions for some of the greatest masters alive, true living Buddhists who have reached the fruition of their practice, with whom you can speak, eat, and exchange heart wishes. As it all seems so ordinary and accessible, so available within the context of Asheville's eager eclecticism, it risks being unnoticed or undervalued. Please don't fall into the blaze assumption that what you have built, made available, and benefited from is easy to find or to replicate. This is your chance in this life, right in your hometown, to directly receive the most beneficial and profound teachings and practices available, and to support one another in bringing them into fruition. However you all see yourselves and whatever course you choose, I urge you to value the community and the lineage, and to use your love of both as a guide for what is to emerge. Do good. Lama Karma.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the points he highlighted could be done without Urban Dharma, actually. In case you're tempted. Page 30. As Venerable George said, based on their experience, supplicating Guru Rinpoche, thinking of Guru Rinpoche, thinking of the principle embodied by Guru Rinpoche, thinking of all the holy images of Guru Rinpoche anywhere and everywhere that you have seen directly, or seen images of, and the Guru Rinpoche sacred image that is here, and anywhere and everywhere. Gather all of them in one place. Or imagine all of them gathered at the copper-colored mountain paradise of Guru Rinpoche, and yourself in the presence of Guru Rinpoche. We make the supplication, first in English, and then in Tibetan. Hung on the northwest border of the land of Bodhayana, in the heart of a lotus flower, endowed with the most marvelous attainments, you are renowned as lotus born, surrounded by many hosts of Dakinis. Following in your footsteps, I pray to you, come inspire me with your blessings. Guru Penma Siddhi Om. Now this line, following in your footsteps, is really important. What were his footsteps? The establishing of Dharma that benefited unlimited number for many generations, so that we have the Dharma coming from the Tibetan tradition is entirely due to the kindness of Guru Rinpoche. And so when we say, we now follow your footsteps, it means we have to manifest Guru Rinpoche's principle in the barbarian land that we are in now, and to establish the copper-colored mountain Pure Land here. And in that way, he comes to inspire us with his blessings. Jin ye jin na chang sang pe ma ge sa tong po la yang sen chu ki nge zhu ne pe ma chu ne she shu da ko lu kan ro mang po ko ke ki je su ta zhu ki jin ji la shi she su so Guru Penma Siddhi Om. Jin yu gin nu chang sang Penma ge sar tong po la ya sen chu gi ngu zhu nye Penma chu ne shi shu da kor du kan ru mang po kor ke gi je su ta zhu ki jin ji la ji she su so Guru Penma Siddhi Om. Jin yu gi nu chang sang Penma ge sa tong po la sen chu ki nge zhu nye Penma chu ne she shu da kor du kan ro mang pu kor ke ki je su ta zhu ki jin ji la ji she su so Guru Pema Siddhi Ho Jin Yu Jin Chang Sam Pema Ge Sa Dong Po La Yang Sen Chu King Ge Zhu Nie Pema Ju Ne Shi Shu Zha Kordu kanjo mampu kor ke ki jesu tadru ki jinji lak shir she su so guru pema siddhi ho jin yu ji nu chang sam pema ge sa dong po la Yang sen chu ki nge zhu nie, pe ma chu ne shi shu ta. Kor du kan zhu mang pu kor ki ki je su ta zhu ki. Jin ji la shi she su so, guru pe ma se di ho. Jin yu jin chang sam pe ma ge sa dong po la ya sen chu ki ke zhu nie pe ma chu ne she shu da kor du kan zhu mang pu kor ke ki je su ta zhu ki jin ji la shi she su so Guru Pema Siddhi Jin Yu Jin Nu Chang Sam Pema Ke Sa Tong Po La Ya Sen Chu Ki Nge Zhu Nie Pema Chu Ne She Shu Zha Kor du kan zhu mang pu kor ki ki je su da zhu ki jin ji la xie she su so guru pema siddhi There's a lot to do. There's a lot to do because we understand there's nothing to do. There's a lot to do. And we can do because we understand there's nothing to do. Diamond Sutra. If you do not have the wisdom of there's nothing to do, then easily you will be overwhelmed. And it's not even about how much, sometimes even little things, you're overwhelmed. Because you don't understand that there's nothing to do. We got so used to the way the rest of the world operates. So that if you're not running around like hairless chickens and looking all concerned and all stressed out, then people say, oh, you must not be very dedicated or serious. I too sort of believe that. And at some point I think, I thought, no, I've had enough of that. And so if we are to be effective, we have to understand this. Yes, there's a lot to do. We have to plan, we have to work, we have to be dedicated, but there's nothing to do. Otherwise, it's not possible. Hold those two together. So before you hear it somewhere else and you panic, apparently this building is in the process of being sold.
So we don't even know what's going to happen, right? But it doesn't matter, you see. We do what we do. And then they do what they do. And then if it meets at a good place, great. If not, we continue doing whatever we do. So that I said, now this news, don't just simply release to anyone, but it's also not a secret. No need to like, because the more you talk and, people get, right? But also like, don't make it like a secret, like, oh, we're not going to tell anyone. If it comes up, then I hope you will embody this, like, well, you know what to do, right? But we do what we do. And then they do what they do, right? And then we'll be fine. As the Muslims say, there's a saying, trust Allah, but be sure to tie your camel. Like, pull your brakes, trust karma, but pull your brakes, especially if you're parking an incline.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
See a
Jess can
lot
tell
of
you that.
people that pretend to do that.
She's in the trauma unit. With the determination to accomplish the highest welfare for all sentient beings who surpass even a wish-granting jewel, may I train to hold them as supremely precious. Whenever I associate with others, may I train to think of myself as the lowest among all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions, may I train to search into my mind, and as soon as an afflictive emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. May I train to cherish beings of bad nature and those oppressed by strong sins and suffering, as if I had found a precious treasure very difficult to find. When others out of jealousy treat me badly with abuse, slander, and so on, may I train to take on all loss and offer victory to them. When one whom I have benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly, may I train to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, may I train to offer to everyone without exception all help and happiness directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my mothers. May I train to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the 8 worldly conceptions, and by understanding all phenomena as like illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. 2 things, announcement-wise. One, for the next few weekday mornings, around 9, a couple of us are here doing the Sangha offering, smoke offering. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, around 9. If you are inspired to come, send me a text to confirm that I'm here. Usually I'm here and Tim is here. It takes, half an hour, 40 minutes. It's a very nice practice. So if you happen to be around or you want to come down, parking is very easy. Asheville doesn't wake up until 11. So you can park right in front and just come in.
Asheville still sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's one thing.
When does that start?
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
just for this week or continue?
Until I say it's not happening.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry. And then the second one pertains to something pertains to someone. So we're going to turn this off because it's not relevant to people who are not local here. And also I don't want this video